Well, hey everybody, it is Casey Jaycox with the Quarterback Dadcast. We are in season 6, and which feels, as you heard me say it before, I'm gonna say it again. It feels so fantastic to say because I feel like we're doing something right. If we've interviewed close to 300 dads, and I'm so excited to see what's going to happen this year as it relates to sponsorships and new dads and people we can impact and ways to improve better leaders of each of the homes. And today's guest comes to us by the one and only Dale Favors, which you've heard me talk about for years, and you've heard him be bragged about on podcasts before, and you've heard his story back in 2020 when I was able to interview him right in the heart of the Black Lives Matter movement, social unrest. And we had this powerful conversation on diversity. And if there's any gentleman in this world who has impacted me more from a growth perspective with just perspective and diversity, it is Dale Favors. And so I give much love to Dale, one of my favorite humans on this earth. But our next guest is Eric Pryor. And he's a Temple owl. I found out right before we record he's an ex-hooper from West Georgia. So we got to hear about some stories. He might be a Wayne State Warrior too, but he is a BFA and MFA in painting. He's a creative individual. He's an executive. He's worked from the Harlem School of Fine Arts to the Pennsylvania Academy of Fine Arts. But that's not why we're having Eric on, everybody. We're having Eric on to understand about how Eric's working hard to become the ultimate quarterback or leader of his home. So without further ado, Mr. Pryor, welcome to the Quarterback Dadcast.
Oh, thank you. Casey, thanks for having me. And you're right about Dale. He's one of my favorite people in the world.
He's the best. I'm hoping to, are you a golfer by chance?
Yep, I am.
Do you go to the Soul Cup?
I've gone before. I haven't gone recently, but I have attended before and had a great time.
I'm trying to get on that list.
Right.
Dale said we'll get you out there one year. I'm like, I know it's there's a lot of brothers at that tournament now. And I'm like, I want to be the lone white dude, and then I'm going to understand a lot about a lot of stuff. And so he goes, we'd love to have you. I go, I'd love to be there. So I'm hoping one day I can. Yeah, that'd be fun.
We'll make it happen.
All right. Well, we always start each episode with gratitude, Eric. So tell me, what are you most grateful for as a dad today?
Every day for me, Casey, I keep it really simple. Waking up, breathing. I mean, I really feel like, just every day I can open my eyes and look out my window and, just feel the earth under my feet. Then I move out from there and it becomes my family and just my experiences.
That for those that heard him say that might be like, it's an easy answer, but actually it's a great answer because it means you're really, really present in thought. It's funny you say that because every morning I do a gratitude journal here. People can see this on YouTube, everybody. If you can't, Eric, you can see there's just
yeah.
And every page, the first line I say is, God, thanks for waking me up today.
Yep.
And it gets my mind right for the day. As I say, thanks for waking me up. Hey, thanks for the chance. I get exercise today. I got a chance to be a better dad than I was yesterday. So I'm going to say the same thing. I'm grateful for waking up too, because I'm grateful I get a chance to learn more about you and celebrate you as a dad, and then share whatever story I learned from today. I can share with my kids, share with my wife, and that's really what I get enjoyment out of this podcast. One, I get free therapy from dads, but two, I learn about people, and it's inspiring.
Well, one of the things I would say is that one of the reasons I take that approach is that, our minds are hugely powerful and we can go all over the place with it. And for me, I really try to stay in the moment as much as possible. And so, whether it's just my breathing or whether it's just, it's one of the things I love about golf. It forces you to be in the moment. So when I look at, I feel like I've always felt like and said to myself, and, I'm going to see myself as a spiritual person and believe in God. And I felt like God, if there's a God, to me, if I were God, I would show favor to the grateful. And I think it has to start at a real core level. And that is just because, at the end of the day, if I can't see, if my brain isn't functioning, if I don't have my health, if I'm not there in that moment, the rest of it, I can't be anything for my daughters. I can't be anything for my wife. I can't be anything for anybody. So for me, the fact that that life is there and I'm up in the morning and I feel my feet on the ground, it means now I can have all those other experiences, and so for me, that's why I really, go to that, is keep that as my core. And it also helps me when I deal with challenges and realizing what life is about.
Yeah, no, I love that, man. So, and I don't know if you do this, but like when you feel that gratitude, like when I'm writing in my journal in the morning, when it's subconsciously, I find myself smiling without knowing it, and it catches me.
Right.
It's
Right.
weird to
I
go
love
through, but
it.
it feels cool. And I'm addicted to that, and I'm a creature of habit when disciplined. I think I maybe get that from the sports background. There's an Uncle Rico moment right there, everybody. But like, uh, I don't want to miss. I'm such a habit. I mean, I've done gratitude now for 4 years every day,
Mm-hmm.
and I have to do that before I do anything else.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Right.
So, well, bring me inside the Pryor huddle. Let me know about your daughters, and then maybe tell me how you and your wife met.
Well, let me just say this. One of the things, and I'm going to give you a story. There's a story I share with people, and it sort of sums up my house. My house, and that is, I'm the youngest of six kids. And so when you're the youngest, you're forced to learn to uh, be in the background and what that means. Because I came from a pretty boisterous, pretty, my older siblings, was no way I was going to take over the room. And so I was in the room. But what I learned from, you learn there, you're able to pick up so much. So I would say, that listening. But the prior household, my wife, once when we met in Brooklyn. She had come by a gallery I was running and wanted to volunteer, and we met. We became friends. We weren't just instantly. She was looking for a different style dude than I was at the time. I was an artist that didn't want to try to look like an artist. I didn't want to look like typical artists. And she wanted somebody that looked like an artist. You know, but I think I wore down with the fact that I think like an artist. I am a creative. So it's not how you look, it's how you live, how you problem solve, how you think. And so that we met in Brooklyn. But once we were together at one point, we were married. And at this point, I think she wanted to leave Brooklyn and go to Jersey. And she gave me a job spec. So I don't know anything about Jersey. I tossed it to the side. And I don't know how much longer, maybe it was a month or two later, I get a call from the search firm wanting to interview me about a job. And I'm like, well, these people called me, they want to interview me for this job. How do they even know who I am? And she's like, you remember that time I handed you that job spec and you said, you didn't know anything about Jersey and tossed it aside. Well, I submitted your information. and
That a
so
girl?
and so I went and I interviewed and I took that position. And that's how I ended up meeting Dale, because we moved to New Jersey. I took on that role. And I just say that and to say that, I'm in a household of females, my wife and two daughters. And I really believe they are all brilliant. And I think leadership, and for me, is recognizing brilliance and helping to position it, so that it can be realized and happen. Which means understanding is, as a leader in my house, is not about me being the smartest person in the room. It's about me being part of recognizing great ideas and just great thoughts and things that we should put into action. Because some of the best things that have happened to us is because I was comfortable enough to listen to my wife.
Checking that ego.
Correct. I mean, and a lot of guys, and just leaders, period, they lose sight of lose sight of, when you're surrounded with amazing people, and that's part of what we all want, right? In our team. Yeah, we don't pick our kids now. We picked our spouse. So I picked an amazing, smart woman. She's a lawyer. She's brilliant. She's beautiful. So listen. So at a certain point, I remember she said, hey, we need to buy a house. We need to get out of this apartment. And, at the time, I wasn't thinking about buying a house in that moment, but it made sense to me. I went with it. I won a public art commission, which gave us enough money for a down payment. We own that house right now. It's a 4-family house, a brownstone in Brooklyn. That that was one of the most important moves, or just foundations economically for our family. And so I think for a lot of us, especially men, is really recognizing the brilliance in our wives and in our daughters, and empowering them, and supporting them, and recognizing that, just great thought ideas. It really, it doesn't care if it comes out of a male or female or whatever. So that's how I try to interface within
Love it.
my
Tell
family.
me, tell me what your daughters are up to. What are they? Where are they at?
My oldest daughter graduated last year. My daughter's the exact same age as Dale's kids, exact same grade. So my oldest daughter just graduated last year from NYU. She's living in Manhattan. She's working for Essence Publications, Essence Magazine, their platform. She graduated with a degree in communications, media, and culture. So she's in that media and culture space. Loves fashion. Smart girl. Proud of her. My youngest daughter is a sophomore at Georgetown, and so at the very least, they picked two of the most expensive schools they could find. But it's great experiences, and once again, grateful the fact that I'm in a position where they could make those choices, and we could say you can do it.
Yeah, that's awesome.
He's coming back to grateful again.
Does your youngest know what she wants to study?
She kind of, and in fact, she may be transferring out of Georgetown because she's really actually interested in going into the communication sort of space. She's really sort of leaning that way. She's wonderful creative, so she's actually considering and putting in the paperwork to transfer to Howard. So she likes DC. Georgetown is an interesting. She wanted it bad, but once you to be careful what you ask for sometimes, because Georgetown is very sort of penny loafer. Yeah, it's hard. I don't know if you know the North sort of blue blood, northeastern blue blood kind of vibe to it. You know.
Yeah. Well, you gotta find the spot that's best for everybody. So then we become our best version of ourselves.
Yeah.
All right. So I love. That was awesome. I love learning about the family, but now I like learning about people when they grew up, and you obviously a youngest of 6.
Yeah. Yeah.
Tell me about what was life like growing up for you, and the impact that your mom and dad had on you now that you're a dad.
For me, it was, growing up. I mean, my childhood was amazing. I'm the youngest of 6 kids, 4 boys, 2 girls. It's probably like a 10-year between me and the oldest, 10 years span between the two, between the oldest and the youngest. It was always something going on in my house. The weird thing is, the first, it was always somebody there. It was always people around, my siblings, their friends. And, I know a lot of people who they weren't my friends, but it was because it was my brothers or sisters' friends. So they were around. And my dad in the early years, he was 50 when I was born. So he was real old school. And so it was like the boys had, you cutting grass, you doing the trash, you know that My brothers didn't even get to do sports because they had to go work with him. He was an entrepreneur. He owned an automated car wash. He was the first black man in Detroit to have an automated car wash in the 1950s. And so my brothers, they didn't get to play sports because for him, young men needed to know how to work. His father died when he was a little boy. He had to go to work, so for him, being a man was about providing, and which meant you needed to have work ethic, and you needed to, he loved sports, but it wasn't for him. It wasn't going to put food on the table. Sports hadn't become a thing where you could see industry around it.
Yep.
So that was how that was. So him passing when I was 12 really was directly connected to my being able to do organized sports. Because if he, now maybe I still would have been able to, but I don't know. If he had a business, it could have been the same as my brother's,
Yeah.
which is or he would get you a job at a friend of his who had a business. But that was his mentality with that. So that's how so we, it was really, and he didn't spare the rod. I mean, he was old school. I mean, he'd be arrested in today's world. Um, you didn't take any shit. If you weren't doing what you're supposed to do, you were gonna get you were gonna get a whooping. And what that's what it was then. And so I shared a room with my brothers. I never had my own room. It was six of us, and we were living in a 4-bedroom house. My parents had their room, and then two in each. My two sisters and then two boys in each room. That was my life growing up. So I saw, the beautiful thing was I got to see life through them. So my older brothers would have been, they was into, rock and roll because they were coming of age in the 60s. So I heard their music and all the stuff they were into. So I really had a rich childhood and seeing lots of different music, and from jazz to rock and roll to R&B, just all of it. And so it was really cool. It was really cool growing up in Detroit. Was that time, because of the automobile industry, Detroit had the largest black homeowning population in America at that time. Because not just black people, black, white, have middle class jobs. Many of them were in factories, but they were able to provide in a way that you know it's a little different now.
Right.
It's different now.
What did your mom do? Did she work too, or should she stay home?
She would stay at home. She
Yeah.
stayed at home because my dad was very successful in what he was doing. So in fact, we even had a nanny at a certain point. So, I mean, this was a guy who never went past the 6th grade, but he, he understood business, and he understood certain, he flew us, the six of us, to California in 1968. This is a black man and his wife and his 6 kids, and we had to come back because of riots. This riots in 68. So that was, while we had, at the same time, he was the kind of dude that he was going to teach you about participation. So when you work with him, you were going to give money back to him because it costs money to live.
Yeah.
You had to pay rent, you had to pay electricity, you had to pay, it was always about, surviving, essentially, teaching you to provide.
Where do you think he learned that strong work ethic?
Well, I mean, Casey, I really think a lot of it was the time that he lived.
Yeah.
Because I mean, let me see. I'm born in '62, so he was 50. So he would have been what, 1912. So that was depression. That was stuff that I don't care who that was a time where as a man in America, you had to step up. There was no excuses. There was very little room for error. And I would say even at that time, it didn't matter, even whether white, black, it didn't matter. That time it was a hell of a time. And, what they say, the hotter, you can bend metal when it's hot, if the fire's hot enough. And I think that was just a time in our nation that it was hot. I mean, between, just depression, race, class, I mean, the complexity of what was happening at that time, I can't imagine it, to be honest with you. I can't wrap my head around what he did to get where to get to where he was, and but so, yeah. So that was my childhood. So it was, you had to be respectful. I had a he didn't take no shit. I just say this gave my brother, he had bought us a 68 Mustang convertible. My mom was backing it out, and she backed it into the apple tree, and it was like, God, this, you can't. So he just, for him, I guess in his view, she wasn't going to be able to handle this. So he gave it to my oldest brother. But he said to my oldest brother, it's one guy lived around the block that he felt was just, no good, kind of, trouble, guy who's going to be in trouble. Don't have him in that car. And my brother had him in that car. And my other brother ratted on him. My brother just older than me, because they wouldn't let him ride in the car with him to go to a picnic. And my father took that car and also punched him, and took the car back. He had that car like a week. But that was the house. You know what I mean? So he loved the shit out you, give you, but I'm giving you stuff. I'm gonna put stuff here for you, but I have expectations of how you're gonna handle it. And if you don't, there's consequences. That was our house. That was his tone.
Well, I'm sorry you lost your pops. Well, we shared that in common, Eric. I lost my dad in 2021,
Mm-hmm.
December 29th, 2021, coming up on it'll be 5-year anniversary. Hard to believe. Or 4-year anniversary, pardon me.
Right, right.
How did your dad pass?
Cancer.
Cancer.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, my dad passed away. It was like it was like a paper cut. Like I say it kind of sarcastically, but like a long bleed of a rap sheet of hell from dementia, Alzheimer's. He fought alcoholism to kidney failure, diabetes. Wow. I mean, just like everything. And then he got into kind of like had some mental struggles. But at the end, it was actually, so my dad was big, loved Al Green.
Uh-huh.
So I played Al Green right by his bed with him for his and he had some like soul. I was like, damn, Dad, cause I forgot how much I like Al Green when I was listening to it. I was like, damn, some good shit.
Right.
And then when I was with my dad though for his last breath, so that was actually, and then in season 3, I dedicated every episode to him because it was like during COVID and we couldn't really do a lot of funerals back then. So I feel like that was a great way to honor my pops. But so your dad passes away. Do you think that's the reason why you got to play hoop in sports?
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, it definitely the thing that he did with my brothers, which was basically put them to work either with him or someone else. Wasn't going to happen at that point. And I'm 6'5", and I was very athletic, and the sports thing, I could do it as much as I wanted. There was nobody saying, "Hey, come on, you gonna come to work with me?" That was, and I did work with my brother, one of my brothers who became a tradesman, wallpaper and painter, and I'd do stuff with him, but it wasn't like Pops, the way he did it, the way he did his thing.
What Talk to me about the impact your dad had on you as you got into sports and life and business, just from like the mental toughness and like talk about how that impacted you.
Just really, I think more than anything else, just the whole accountability thing, just the fact that, you knew, just you knew you had to have a clear thing in your mind around right and wrong, or do I go down that path or not? Because if he found out, you were going to, you know, and so that sort of becomes wired in for me. That actions have consequences, and so really more than anything else, being thoughtful about the things that I did, that I was going to take part in. Not that I was an angel, because I was not, but at the same time there was a moral compass. And he later became a deacon, and I mean, even like little stuff like Sunday, early on Sunday, because I was the youngest. He With boys, he was big on having his boys around him, which meant he went to church, I was going to church. My sister could get out of it by not having a dress, and the idea of wearing pants was not an option. And I was like, I used to piss me off to no end, because it was, I never that wasn't an that wasn't an option. And so, but the cool thing was, my because he was the age he was when I was, born. His niece, some of his nieces and nephews had kids my age, so I was close to them. And I'd say, like my cousin Daryl and Punk, I say, are they coming? Are they gonna go to? Because I want to have them with. I had a company, and he basically started their father and their business. Now their mother was his niece. So he called her up, and it was just crazy. It was like, hey Joanne, it wasn't asking. I'm gonna come pick the boys up, take them to church with me. Make me an egg sandwich and some orange juice, and I'll see you in boom. That's how that conversation went. When we get over there, and they were dressed for church, and everything was there. But I mean, what I didn't realize at that time, the house they were living in, that was the house that my family was in before my father bought the house that I was born into. And so he provided for family opportunities. I mean,
Yeah.
her husband, there was a point where he was also involved in the numbers business, and their father, my father started him in his business.
Wow.
Now did they buy that house? Did he? I have no idea, but you realize, it was clear. It's something else in life when you see a person that people respect,
Yep.
and it's almost like, and that was him seeing,
Mm.
and I recognize it more now as a man. As a child, I just thought maybe everybody was kind of scared, a little scared of him, like I was, but you knew he loved you, but you had a
Little
little.
healthy fear. When did you realize before he passed? I mean, obviously you were only 12, but when did you realize, man, my dad's pretty smart businessman?
Oh, that was. I mean, appreciating him was later, because it became complex. The disease. My mother was 15 years younger than him. She's beautiful, was a beautiful woman, and their relationship was complex. We were going to church. There was verbal kind, some tension there that you I didn't want to see. And so when he died, just being honest here, Casey. When he died, a peace came, and I actually embraced it, and was happy for it. Because it just sort of some of the chaos
Yeah.
went away. But it wasn't until later that I really understood. I mean, in that moment, and that's once again understanding, and maybe why I'm like I am now about the moment.
Right.
Because that moment when you're 10, 11, and there's some that craziness of relationships of a man and a woman that you have no control over as a child,
Right.
and that was there
Is
amongst the layer of it all.
is
So
mom
when
still with us?
yeah, mom is still with us, and she'll be 97 in January next month.
Wow.
Yeah, yeah,
That is a good life.
yeah. And she ain't ready to go. She's a trip. It's like, mom, you talking about grateful. It's like, it's like she trying to get as many of them as possible. Say, mom, just hey, I'm great, all things considered. I say, mom, you're 96. You then outlived. There's nobody in our family that has seen the years that you have that I am aware of. So if it comes with a little bit of you don't hear as good, and I'm a little out of breath, that's sort of like par for the course.
Yeah.
Is this
Where do
people?
you
Go ahead.
tell me? Where do you think your love of the arts came from?
Uh, my mom, my mother was studied art and was in the creative spaces as a when growing up. Took us, you know, that trip in California. There's a picture of me and her in front of the Los Angeles County, front of their big museum. My mom was always taking us to concerts and, uh, art and, that sort of stuff. So, I saw that with her. And then my cousins across the street from us, their father was an artist. He was an illustrator. And back in the 60s, there, and even 70s, there weren't, you didn't have black people on greeting cards. Karl Marx didn't have black folks on greeting cards. Well, my cousin's father saw that and developed a Broom Designs. And basically, it was a greeting card company with black people. And his wife is set to this day from them creating that business. And that was before Hallmark got smart and did mahogany and put different people on greeting cards. But he, so I saw creativity, I saw that stuff, and then my mom. So it was around.
Yeah. When did you know you had a chance to play hoop in college?
Well, I probably was six. I was definitely over 6'2" in junior high school. I mean, I was ninth grade. I was 6'4", 6'5", pretty much what I'm 6'5". That sort of topped out there, but um, I enjoyed it. I loved playing, and when I was in middle school, I just was able to dominate the people I played with. And it was great because I was not a good academic student. I think I'm probably dyslexic. I was never diagnosed, but I was held back in the second grade and didn't have a lot of confidence. And then all of a sudden, that heightened athleticism, you know, uh, I was realized was better than majority of the people that I was around. I was bigger than them, and it was empowering. Wow, it was like something I was good at. And that I tell people it's funny. I say, when you find something that can give you belief in yourself, because before that, I like I said, I've been held back in a grade. There was a lot of self doubt um, until then, and all of a sudden, I went to being the man at something, from being a person who was trying to be a shrinking violet and just not, my God, is this, like the spelling bee, because I was going to misspell words. I'm a terrible speller, and it was like, that was traumatizing. Like, oh, shit. Go line up. I was like, it felt like a firing squad to me. I'm being honest with you, and this is elementary Eric, you know what I mean? That's what that felt like. But boy, when I finally, but what's funny is that now I did have art then, and I love drawing and stuff, but it didn't, I did it, but it didn't dawn on me or hit me that it could be something that I could make a life out of. It was just something I enjoyed doing. And my niece found when we sold our house, she found my old elementary school report card. It was D's, and it was so underwhelming, Casey. But I had A in art
Wow.
every semester. She said, "Look, Uncle Eric, you got, you good in art even back." but you don't, I didn't think about it like that then.
I hate to poke fun at our school system, but isn't that's such a miss as our school systems. It's like if someone's doing that good art, like don't make him study chemistry. He's never going to use it. Like the phrase, the world's run by C students. There's something to say about that. Like I was a 3 point guy, 3.2 in high school. Never really applied myself. I just didn't. There's stuff that interests me. And then I got into college. I liked business classes. I liked some marketing.
Right, right.
But like what taught me life skills was sports and going through an injury and learning the power of vulnerability, learning humble enough to ask questions, being curious. Like emotional intelligence is something that I feel like our school systems are lacking to teach.
Yeah. Well, what was weird for me was that, I had to figure out how to be successful at something and to get through it. Uh, and there was nothing, it was very little in the system to help with that. And I mean, bottom line is, I guess that's the beginning of sort of complex problem solving, and one doesn't even realize it. I mean, that was what was ironic about that, was that and I had to figure out, Casey. I mean, whatever I had to do, and whether that was a combination of occasionally cheating if I had to, if I had, staying up later and looking at it and writing it down, or doing whatever I had to do to try to, uh, to get over whatever hump there was, because at a certain point, so that was um, crazy. Because when I think now, there's so much more sophisticated around understanding how children learn and positioning them to flourish. That did not exist at all. And I mean, it was like all I know is that one day I'm like, okay, second grade, I'm with my class, and the next year, oh, you're gonna be in that second grade class with these other kids, and all my friends were in another class.
Yeah, that would have
But
must
I'm
have been
still
hard.
there. Oh no, it was, brother, if it wasn't for the blessing of 6'5" and ball, and to find a space that I could find that self-worth and belief. And then I walked through that door and I wasn't looking back, bro.
Yeah,
I was not looking. I was like, what they say, fake it till you make it. The level of insecurity was there. You couldn't, you just didn't, what they say, don't let them see you sweat. And you figure it out. And eventually you get the swagger,
yep,
and then as you get older, there's some imposter syndrome that's there, but you learn, really, everybody has their blinds, everybody has their things,
everybody.
everybody. And the people who are, at least for me, I figured out, to reach my zenith, I had to be comfortable and own my shortcomings, and that empowered me to be just now, I wasn't hiding something I was ashamed of. A lot of people don't reach where they could go in life because they're hiding something that they're ashamed of.
You funny, kind of ironic or funny story about that. So I speak also at like company events, and I never
Mm-hmm.
planned to do this, but it just kind of happened in this entrepreneurial journey that I'm on. And one of the presentations I give, I have a slide that I convince people don't fake it till you make it. I convince people to lean in on your authenticity and realize
Oh,
that
totally,
we all are flawed.
totally.
I don't care how successful people are; they still got gaps. And right
Yeah,
before I went on, this head of marketing was talking to the team. There's like 200 people in the room, and he said, "You guys got to fake it till you make it." And I'm like, "Oh man, I'm about to tell these people the exact opposite."
yeah.
And so all I could think about is I'm going to lean into this. And so I got up on stage and I said, "Hey, before we get started, there's a movie. You ever seen the movie Old School with Will
Mm-hmm.
Ferrell?" So
Yeah,
there's a part in that movie with Vince Vaughn says earmuffs. The kids put their ears over their and the hands over
right.
their ears. And everyone kind of like, what the hell is this guy talking about? I said, "Hey, put everybody earmuff it up real quick. I need to talk to
Yep.
my marketing guy in the back." And I said, "Hey, I just want to apologize to you because I'm going to teach your team to do the exact opposite of what you just told them to do. And I didn't know you were about to say that, but I wanted to get ahead of it because it's going to be awkward for both of us in like 35 minutes when I
Yeah,
have a slide that says the exact opposite." And I go, "We can agree, disagree, but I just didn't want to make that." And everybody kind
yeah.
of started laughing. But I was like, it was my own way to like kind of lean into the
Well,
vulnerability of the moment.
I totally agree with you, and but I would just say, for me, I think part of it is, and one thing I learned with art is that there's certain things that you got to start believing in yourself, even when you may not, in your true heart, believe that you should.
Yeah, I love that.
And that is when I say that, that's sort of where I'm, because it was, I mean, when you are on the other side of the odds, and you begin to, and really that I don't like the term. You're right that fake it till you make it, but it really is.
But people
What I
believe
tell
that.
people is that we all in our minds visualize an outcome for ourselves.
Sure.
And there are a lot of people who they call it, well, I'm gonna be real. I'm a realist. I'm a this, so, so to me, and I use the analogy of driving down the highway. So the real thing is that you really just gonna concentrate on the fact that, that there could be an accident at any moment that could be catastrophic. And so I'm gonna keep that in the front of my mind. You're gonna go crazy.
Yeah.
It's gonna go crazy, And so for me, it's sort of like, I've learned how to drive. I know how to drive. I trust. I know my instincts. I'm gonna track my lanes. I'm in my mind already thinking about the enjoyment I'm gonna have in reaching my destination. And that's what I mean. So in that moment, I'm in the reality is I'm in the car.
Yeah.
And I'm 12, I'm whatever hours from LA, going cross country. But in my head, I'm gonna put the dream in my head. I'm gonna put what I want to see. And so for some people, they be, well, that's not you're an optimist, that's not real. But at the end of the day, why am I walking around with a nightmare in my head?
I'm a naive optimist, Eric.
Yeah,
I mean, I'm almost if Seattle was the pessimism, and we're looking at like a line of like a timeline of Seattle's pessimism, we'll call Chicago the end of optimism. I'm like
hmm,
in the Bahamas, that far east, that naive of optimism, and I always tell myself someone's going to do it. Why not me?
right.
Right?
And so,
And
yeah,
and so if people can't see me, if you're not watching this on YouTube, behind me there's a believe sign.
right. I
It's the
got you. I
Ted
saw it.
Lasso theme, but when I was 41, Eric, I had a mentor. His name John Kaplan. Shout out to Cap, and he asked us the question, or asked me a question: "Do you believe what you do matters?"
Yeah,
And a simple question, but I don't think a lot of people spend time thinking about it. And so that in my executive coaching work, and I work with sales teams and leaders, I always make sure they believe. Like if you don't
right.
believe in yourself, you're already going to lose.
Well, where I went to school at St. Mary's of Redford, and I'm gonna get this wrong, but they had a thing on the locker room area, and it said, or right there, it's with the mind. It was something like, "With the mind can believe." you can achieve or something. It was that kind of statement, and that always stuck with me. And just in terms of, you know, I I've got to be comfortable with visualizing the outcome I want,
Yep.
and there's no reason for me to compromise how grand or just how spectacular I choose to see that
Yep.
in vivid terms. And that's huge. And that's something I really try to impart in my daughters, and that, yeah, mine is powerful, and we train ourselves to let me think of the worst situation, and then it only get better, whatever happens. In the meanwhile, you just giving yourself all that anxiety and just unnecessary negativity around an outcome
That we don't control.
that we don't control. So for me, I'm really, that giving it that thought or that way, it's just the only way to do it.
Yeah.
And so that was part of the survival, is really, and my mom get a lot of that from her.
That's cool.
It's always,
As you and your wife are raising your daughters, what tell me about like the top two or three values that were like must haves for your family that you were instilled in them.
well, I'm gonna just say this, and it's gonna sound corny, but one thing I didn't share with you is that a year before our oldest daughter was born, we had a son that was stillborn. My wife was 36 weeks pregnant, or I mean, she was full term.
Oh
I
wow.
mean, out of my three children, him being first, um, uh, he was the only one she had to deliver vaginally. Um, that was but he was expired when he was born, and so for me, it's gratitude, bro. Let me just say, my life goes back to that
Wow.
because my first child had when I held him, there was the life had gone from him. And I prayed for daughters at that point. And I kicked a lot of trees and and I really my relationship with God changed, because it got complicated when I saw some of the things of with my father and mother's relationship, and he was a deacon. I had to go to church, yet, but he arguing with her, and at the end of the day, I felt like um God brought me back and just said, okay, it's me and you, brother.
Yeah.
This ain't in that moment. I couldn't look at anybody but me in my relationship and what I needed spiritually in that moment. And I realized he was just a man dealing the same way I'm trying to deal in my life. And it was a lot of imperfections and it was complex and God only knows what, but he did the best he could with what he had. And now it was on me to do the best I could in my family. And so that whole thing, so for me, value wise, is appreciation.
Love it.
Because I mean, let me just say this, Noah, our son, he was due on that March of, his due date was like March 25th. My daughter, my oldest daughter, her due date was March 24th, exactly a year later.
Wow.
And so when my wife was pregnant, they were not going to let her be pregnant on the day that because he was born March 17th, or she gave birth to him on March 17th. And the doctors were like, you're not going to be pregnant on March 17th. And then, you realize in those moments the power of the mind. They were like, you can't, the anxiety level you will have on those anniversaries with that little girl in you is not, we
Right.
just don't recommend that. So they induced her, did a C-section, and my daughter was born on March 12th.
March 12th.
Mm-hmm.
That's my birthday.
Yep. Okay, there we go.
I just got goosebumps, man. That should trip
Yeah.
me out right there.
Yeah. So that's how that got. So to me, for me, it's that was a moment in my life where it was like I realized, Eric, you're either gonna grow through this or it's gonna just take you out because it's just emotionally and just because there is no answer.
Mm-mm.
There's
Makes
no
no
answer.
sense.
It's
Right.
no sense. It's none. There's none.
No one
The
should have to go through that.
the fragility of life. You now it's that balance has been tipped. That sort of invincible guy who could dunk on people and you know what I mean, who could 6'5" and intimidate, in shape. Nah, dude, you don't control shit. And that was that moment. And you need to have a relationship with God. You need some stuff.
Are you more spiritual than religious?
I would say so.
Me too.
I would say so, but I knew in that moment I needed something bigger than me. I needed, the purpose. And at the end of the day, I mean, why?
Well, I
And
think I like. I got. I have a son in college. I have a daughter, like I mentioned, a daughter who's a junior, and she has goals to play hoop past high
right.
school, and I hope that happens. If it doesn't, again, and I have to constantly remind myself, like I'll talk to God or I'll talk to my dad and have him like, just please help me remind her that it's not my journey. It is not my journey, and whatever she decides to do, I'm going to be happy. Whether she might come home tonight and say, "Dad, I'm done playing basketball." Now, would I be shocked, pissed, frustrated? 100%. I'd be like, "Are you no? Oh hell no!" But if she did, and I'd have to be okay with it and try to find a reason why. And so I just like those are things like I feel like, or if I'm not my best, if I feel like my impatience comes out, or I've learned to like, hey, I can either be a complete asshole, or I
Mhm.
can go to my wife and say, you know what, I was not my best. I'm sorry. And I'll
Yeah.
go tell my, then I usually, when I'm not my best, I try to like tell my kids and say, Dad, let me give you an example where dad was a complete freaking tool. Because we're all messed up.
Yeah.
And like my wife's father, gosh, shout out to Bruce. He always says everybody's kind of right on that edge of being just a complete dipshit. But you got, how do you kind of lean just a little bit on that tightrope where you don't fall, but you're just embrace it to know that we're all there, but like lean a little bit that way. And, um, but yeah, I think
Well,
like the power of prayer is real.
yeah. Well, for me, it really is about being grateful. It really is about, it really is about that. Because at the end of the day, usually the things that we're complaining about, or it's so minute in comparison to issues that people are really dealing with. And that was where, like just some of the challenges and even those challenges, for me, and at that time, I know when I went through that, was a friend of mine, God rest his soul, was dealing with brain cancer. And, he just said at a certain point, he said, Eric, I used to say, why me? Why me? And at a certain point, he said, why not me? And you realize, and, when I said, why me? And at a certain point, the why not me was that my role was to experience that, to share with other people, because I'm the kind of person I'm comfortable sharing like that. And so the number of people that I talk to, I mean, I never forget, I talked to when I at certain points were going through that. It was it was weird. In many instances, were people who had gone through similar stuff who needed to hear what I was saying. But it's total random that I'm where this person is in this moment. In that moment, his answer, why not me? You understood the why, because you can't, and I'll call it, minister to someone, or you can't share with someone experiences that you haven't had.
Right.
And so, certain things are put in our path, and now all of a sudden we're experiencing it, becomes part of our database or whatever of experiences. So now, in sharing and being human with another human being, I'm sharing my experiences, and call it randomness or call it God or call it divine, but all of a sudden I'm in a pool with somebody halfway across the world talking about something that me and my wife went through, and that couple just went through that.
It's not
Yeah.
random.
And what I'm saying to them, I'm looking at them
Yeah.
sort of, you know, healing with part of those words,
Yeah.
and not and that is so for me that experience shaped me because I was, I'm married and my beautiful wife, and she's pregnant. I've got my boy and my son up in there, and you know, hey, I'm like dad,
Yeah.
I'm former ball player, probably gonna be a big boy, I'm thinking, all
Right.
that stuff, and then it doesn't happen. All of a sudden the rug is totally pulled. And in that moment, you gotta find grace in that and to survive it and recognize that it was a blessing that, that experience shaped me and made me a better father, husband, everything.
Wow.
And it was either that was put there for me to grow through or and so being grateful helped me to survive that. And so I've chosen that, and I try to instill that in my girls and our family.
That's powerful, man. I did not know that. So rest in peace, Noah, wherever you're at. But that's a powerful story, and I hope that there's a mom or dad listening that knows that you can get through those challenging times. And there's a great quote that I found recently, in the last 3 months, that I've shared with my kids a lot, and I share it with myself when I need it. And it says, "Tough times don't last, but tough people do." And I just love, because I think sometimes we need stories in life as humans. We need stories to connect to be like, okay, wait a minute. I'm not either. I can sit here, keep my head down on the ground and just like let depression take over me, or I can ask for help, reach out, listen to a podcast, ask a friend for help, go read a book, take a walk. I mean, do something other than just, but don't let the start stop us from
Yeah,
not doing something,
you got that right.
you know? How did Noah's passing impact your girls?
They really didn't, it's funny. They really didn't know because it happened. I mean, it happened. And then when they got here, we didn't, it's recent. What's interesting is, so we just sold our house in West Orange on November 18th. And so my oldest daughter was there, and I'm going through stuff. And it is a wooden box that would put in our stuff. And that wooden box it was a memory box. And in that box is his ashes. In that box was his little hat, the little cap they give you, because we got all that. His blanket, a little, it's tiny stuff, and it was all in along with other members, loved ones, obituaries. And so she had never seen that stuff. And so I said, I showed her what it was. I thought because it's young women, and it was like, oh, what do you do with that? And I said, because it could scare them, it could freak them out in terms of being mothers eventually. But I'm like, you know what? They need to know it because who knows? Yeah, God, I wish they don't experience something like that, but they need, because I didn't know until that happened that my mother had lost children. That it was that in terms of if the children had survived, that passed, I wouldn't be here probably.
Yeah.
They would have probably stopped much sooner, considering I'm number 6, was the last. And so just sharing that, and it was a letter in there that my wife had wrote journaling when she was pregnant, and my daughter's reading it, and it's just daily stuff. It wasn't the after that happened. This was during the moment.
Wow.
And so, she starts, she's shed a few tears, and just that. So it's really now as they get older, that those things are coming into play, because I really want them to understand, they dramatic, and I don't know, for me, and this is crazy, But part of the strife, what I saw my parents go through, that 12-year-old survival, was I learned to become detached. And so it was weird for a long time. I was a very loving person. And then when people I love got emotional and started crying and stuff, I would detach and became colder. And just recognizing that and trying not to be that person and be there for them, because I'm realizing, like, my daughters, when they get upset and it doesn't work out, they gotta cry. They want to cry and be emotional, and I'm like, oh shit, it just drives me crazy because I'm like, yeah, it's not gonna do anything. And then I finally realized, you know what? My version of that is I'm damn, fuck. I do that. I kick myself. I'm mad at myself for letting that happen, and that's how I vent and work my way through it. For them, it's a cry, and once I started seeing that, and so for me, it was like, how do you grow through it? Because that's all once again, going through the Noah thing, that's the only way I know to deal with things that seem incomprehensible, emotionally, is to find the gratitude and the growth in it. What's in this that can make me better? And
Well,
how do
I think you learned empathy through that story too.
right, right.
Um, well, man, we've talked about a lot. I've learned a lot about you. I feel like I could talk to you for 2 more hours, but I want to be sensitive to my listeners. And but I'm grateful Dale introduced this. If people, well, how about this? Before I go to the next question, if you were to summarize what we talked about, Eric, that people can take from our conversation, we talked about a lot, but if you could just summarize it, maybe like 3 actionable words or 2 actionable words that we can give people, like, hey, think about these themes for your own life, for your own role as a dad. Tell me what comes to mind that dads can take from our conversation, be that a better leader or quarterback of their home.
I think the key for us as men is vulnerability. I think that we are, our training to control emotion and compartmentalize. I think we can easily miss a lot, and I think allowing ourselves to, you know, to be authentic, to understand masculinity is not about, I can overpower and, I'm not phased, it's about being a leader. And sometimes that leadership is being a spiritual leader like you say, in empathy or forgiveness or love, and so to me, in order to be those things, those things don't reconcile with a kind of stubborn masculinity that can happen with us as men.
I see it, and that's when I started this podcast, nearly going on year 6. It was to help dads embrace vulnerability, curiosity, and humility, which I think are life superpowers that many of us leave dormant in our body. And I work on those skills every single day. I'm far from perfect at them. I'm a curiosity psycho. Like, I'm obsessed with curiosity. Even like, I got on Snapchat this year, which I never thought I would do in my life, but I got it because I'm realizing that with college and high school kids, they will snap me back messaging versus text me. So, my son's girlfriend, her name Charlie, shout out Charlie. Charlie sent me a snap one day with a picture of a magazine, and it had the word curious, and she circled it and sent it to me.
So I would say you said 3. So it's vulnerability, authenticity. To me, it's so critical. It's everything. And then, lastly, I think that for us as dad and for men, I think it's self-care. I mean, there is an aspect to, putting the oxygen mask on yourself,
Yep.
so you can help other people. I think we, need to understand when what that really means for us. So, for me to be there, there's certain things I gotta do,
Yep,
so
love
I can
that.
be present. So being in the moment.
Yeah, I mean, our kids are watching. That's one thing I've learned. Like exercise is a perfect one of self care. Like
Yep.
we exercise in our family, and it's the most important thing we do to start the day.
All right.
Though my exercise has changed over the years. I'm not doing like freaking powerlifting anymore, but like I'm still moving.
Like I knew a guy, and I know this is gonna sound crazy, and then I'm gonna let you go, keep it. But and I'm a friend of me and my wife's. They were together, and his father. We were talking. He was like, my daughter knows she ain't gonna bring no boys home, and blah 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 blah. I was like, I looked at him. I was like, but dude, I said, my daughters. I'm not trying to send them to away games. I'm like, really? I said, so you send your daughter over to a young man's house so you can feel better about not seeing her with a young man in your house. I'm like, guy, so if your daughter needs help, she's in somebody else's house. I'm like, dude, you gotta, and part of that is tied into some of the, I don't know, weird warped aspects of masculinity and who we are as men. And, I don't want to, my little girl, she can't be having sex with somebody, or she can't, brother, you got to snap out of it.
Yeah, they're gonna eventually.
Because exactly. And so I want them to be there. And so that was one of the things for us was we wanted our daughters to be comfortable bringing their friends home, which meant we probably tolerated some things that other people might not, but we felt like we'd rather have them close to us,
Same, man. I totally agree with you.
comfortable doing things that other people are like, well, you let her do that. You let them, yeah, because they're gonna do it anyway. It's just
Right.
gonna be somewhere else
Yep.
where I'm not in a position to be there for them.
Totally.
So I'm in on that one.
No, I love it. That's good. It's great, great advice. If people want to connect with you, they want to learn more about if you've inspired them, they want to learn about any of the work you're doing, maybe the art you have. I'm not sure if you're on any social media. If there's ways we
Yeah,
can.
I'm on Instagram, and I'm on LinkedIn, and I'm on Facebook.
Okay.
I'm not a TikToker.
Okay.
But I'm on the other three that I just named.
Well, I'll get that when we're done recording. I'll make sure it's tagged in the show notes, so
Cool.
people can check out this episode's either there or you can connect with you that way. Eric, it's now time to go what I say the lightning round, where I go completely random. This is where I show you the negative hits of taking too many hits in college, not bong hits, but football hits. And my job is to ask these. Well, your job is to answer these questions as quickly as you can. My job is to try to get a giggle out of you.
Okay,
Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay. Um, if true or false, the last time you played one-on-one with Dale, he beat you 21-0.
He beat me on the golf course. You can't get me to play basketball. I'm trying to walk into my 80s. Go ahead.
Who would win in a speed walk racing? You or Dale?
Probably him.
Okay, there you go, Dale. Oh boy. Tell me the last book you read.
Oh God, that's now. I am a. Let me see. What was I think I had like the Steve Jobs book or something like that.
Okay.
Nothing recent. I'm more of a periodical guy.
Okay. Favorite movie of all time is?
Oh man, your favorite movie of all time. Um, I'm a Star Wars guy.
Okay.
Star Wars. I like stupid John Wick. Action movies, The Equalizer.
Okay.
They would never win an award. But I'm gonna tell you, no, I take that. The first Gladiator was dope.
Okay.
I love the first Gladiator.
If you were to meet any artist in the world, who would you meet?
Oh wow. Meet any artists. Let me see. I would love to meet Romare Bearden. My hero, Al Loving, my friend's father, I met him, man. He was life changing for me. So if I could go back and be with anybody, I'd go back and hang out with him some more.
Okay. If I was to go into your phone, what would be the one song played that would surprise your daughters?
Creep by Radiohead.
Okay. All right. If I came to your house for dinner tonight, tell me what we'd have.
For me, chicken and salad.
Healthy, good protein.
Right.
If you were to go on vacation right now, just you and your wife, no kids, where are we going?
Oh, my wife is going to be somewhere where ocean, warm water, beach, wherever
Okay.
that is in the
All
world.
right.
That's her, where she is.
Okay. If there was to be a book written about your life, tell me the title.
Wow, because we're trying to write a book right now. I have no idea title. I would just say believe, overcome. I mean,
Believe and
my
overcome.
story is about finding belief in yourself.
Love it. Okay. Now, Belief and Overcome. I love that title. I've been telling my friends about it. We're going to bookstores, but it's sold out. I go to Amazon. I can't get it online. I go to Barnes & Noble. It's out. I go to the airport. It's gone. So Hollywood's found out about this, Eric. They're going to make a movie, and you are now the casting director. I need to know who's going to star Eric Pryor in this critically acclaimed hit new movie.
Oh God, who? Let me see who could do it. Maybe all those actors are too damn short, man. I just gotta be I would say like a Michael B. Jordan or somebody, but they all little dudes, man. Who's a tall?
The Rock, maybe could The Rock, Dwayne Johnson get you?
Maybe. Maybe.
Okay, and then last question. Tell me 2 words that would describe your wife.
Smart and beautiful.
Smart and beautiful. Love it. I tend to laugh at my own silly, weird, random jokes that make no sense, but I enjoy lightning round. It's always fun to make people think about things they haven't thought about in a while. But lightning round's over. It's been an honor talking to you, man. Your story is. That's why I love going in without a script. I have a script in my head, but I don't have a
Right.
script, and I don't like sending people a script because I think it
Right.
takes away from the curiosity of the conversation. But um, you've shared so much stuff that's made me think. I hope it made people think. Like I said, I have a full page of notes. Everybody at home, I hope you do too. If this episode has touched you, if you think if there's someone out there, everybody at home that you think could gain from Eric's wisdom he shared with us, please text the episode to him, share it to him. And if you've not taken time to leave us a review on either Apple or Spotify or wherever you consume your podcast, please do that. It's like the best gift. It'll help keep us going. I hope that one day, you never know, maybe my son will take this over from me when I'm like 85 in the assisted living facility. He's taken over as the host of the Quarterback Dadcast. You never know, but I appreciate you, Eric. It's great to spend time with you, and hopefully we'll be in the same foursome in the Soul Cup one year.
Perfect. I love it. I'm there.
Awesome. Take it easy.